Hello, and welcome to Wisemen. So you can always see your company name up here. This is the dashboard. We'll get to this in a moment. First feature we'll go into is probably something you're most familiar with. So this is employees. And here we have basic employee information like their division, their birthday, date employed, personal phone, etc. Over here we have private information. So only admins can see this information, or the user, like emergency contact, social security number, last time you did an evaluation, last pay change, pay rate. You can also store files like a W-4, resume, etc. And then we have policies, which we'll get to in a second. The next feature I'm going to go into is the knowledge base. So this is where we have articles, we have different policies, right? So it's very easy to create one, takes no effort whatsoever. You just go in here, give it a title, select a category. You can make that a how-to, a policy, or a warning. You can assign it to a division or a department. Let's go with executive. You can add tags to make it easier to search, and this is a rich text editor, so you can put headings, you can put titles, you can copy and paste, you can do images, you can even do tables, right? This is even more powerful because you can record videos in here. So a lot of executives don't have time to be writing policies all the time or revising policies, so you can just go use your webcam, do a screen record video, use your phone, and you can record videos directly into here. It'll store them, it'll save them, you don't have to worry about it. So once you make one, you can go over here and you can check it out. I'm going to look at this one right here. This is a time off policy. So you're going to see on this side, this log. So this keeps track of when it was created and then who read it. And then even more powerful, it also keeps track of the updates and who read after the update. So oftentimes managers are making policies. They don't really know who's read what. They think people have read it and they can hold them accountable to it, but they can't always because they just say, oh, I didn't read it. So here you have a log. When an employee reads it, after an edit, they have this button that appears, says acknowledge and mark as read. So that's what makes it go into this log. It's not simply opening the page. They have to truly have marked that they have read it, and therefore you know that they're in compliance with your employee handbook, with your hats, with your policies. It also makes it extremely easy because when you assign it to a division, it shows up in their dashboard. So they'll be able to see that there's new policies to read. You can even see in employees and users, as I pointed out before, you can see the policies that they've read, when they read it, if they read the last version. And so you then have that full view of each of those employees and what you can hold them accountable to. Next feature I'll go into is called requests. So this is kind of similar to how a lot of people use emails. This isn't a replacement for email. This is a structured channel for your employees' different types of requests. So we have approval requests where they're asking for approval, they can take on a new client or to, move on to a different project. We have promotions. If the person's looking to change their title, their pay rate, this has more structured information so you get all the information you need. Or they can ask for time off requests, and it'll keep track of how many days they're asking to take off, what type, is it a paid vacation, etc. For this example, I'll do an approval. So you give a short description, you then give more detail, the employee does, and they have to give you the solution. This is what I'm looking to do about it, right? For this example, I'll give myself as the approver. And so I can instantly see it show up over here. And now I have the choice. This is an omnidirectional tool. So it's not very, very structured where, a request can only go to a specific manager if they spend a lot of time setting all that stuff up. No. Your employee can go in there, they can set whoever as the approver, and if that person can't approve it, or let's say your junior sends you a request and they want to change the way you're packaging your products. Well, even though you're the senior, you might not be able to make that determination. So you can go and forward it. Say, hey, I'm not sure about this, but sounds fine to me. Forward it to another person. Again, for this example, I'm just choosing myself, but this would move to someone else. And so this log over here keeps track of it. And the originator, the one who sent this originally, can see this log. In the case of a pay change, they can't see the note part, so you can, say whatever you want about them. Yeah, I would never give them this raise, or they probably deserve more. So they're not going to see that on that type of request. But for an approval and for a vacation time, they can see the notes. And so they then know who to follow up on. They're not going to you and asking you what you did with it, and then they're getting exasperated as they're going through. They can actually just know, great, this is where it is, that's who to check on, or, that it's moving and I don't need to check on it. So once one has gone through enough, it reaches the approval stage. So you just click on approval, And then now that becomes a task. So if someone wants, as the example we gave, to have their packaging changed, once that's approved, now someone actually has to do it. And that's also part of that request. So now it gets assigned as a task. And here you can see your tasks. You can also assign a task directly to an employee. You don't have to go through a request to get there. And when you've assigned it, it's just a very simple system. You can see who it's gone through, what the notes are, and then it can be marked as in progress, completed, all using the same note log. So the originator can see, yeah, this is moving, or you as a manager can see, yeah, it's moving. And all of these are very private. So even on here, when I look at all requests, I'm not actually going to see all requests in the company. I'm only going to see all the requests that I've been a part of. So you can feel free to send various requests between you and your HR person and be secure that not everyone is going to be able to see those details that you're putting in there. So the next feature, very similar to this request, is a little bit more structured. This is for purchases. So we have some specialized fields here because you always need to have a lot of information when you're dealing with money. So here you can put the vendor name, like let's say Amazon. You can choose the purchase type. And these you can create whatever you want. We'll choose supplies, purchase method, let's say cash. We can give information, like we're looking for a stapler. Put the exact link, so you don't have to worry about getting the wrong item. The employee is the one who's originating which item they want. And then you can also choose a set aside, like this is for our office, or this is for a job site, etc. So when you submit this, it follows the same sort of idea as request. You can go to anyone. But the difference here is that when you're dealing with money, you have to make sure that if it's approved to pay, that the right person does it. So here you have a button for forward to finance. So in the settings, you set who your finance approver is. And so once it reaches here, you actually have to bring this purchase request to that specific employee. You can give a comment. Now, as the purchase approver, you can make sure that you are going through finding the things, yes, we have the money for that. And then when you mark it to pay, that goes to the PO payer, who then validates that this is now done. So this is a very structured, organized way to deal with the various types of requests that get made for spending money. The next feature we're going to go through is something called statistics. So this is probably one of the most robust features in the software. So in here, you can keep track of anything. This is very simple, doesn't take a lot to set up. When you go over here, there's some settings. You don't need to worry about them. You can just create a stat, number of leads. Instantly, we can keep track of this number. So we just go in here, add a value. You can set your company's week ending. So you can only add values for that, or you can set the stat to daily, weekly, monthly, etc. So right away you can see the data. And if you're keeping track of anything and you've used Excel, which I'm sure you have, then you can see how powerful and useful this would be just to be able to enter the data and have it be shown on a graph. So right here, you can see a lot of the data. You get visualization, super useful. Now, this becomes a little bit more powerful when you want to compare different people's production. Like let's say we have these two employees who both have calls out that are tracking. These are both tracked weekly. Now we can actually see the stats compared to each other, and you can easily see where one employee was doing better than the other. Let's give another example. Let's say we have our gross income, and we want to see how did we do this year compared to last year. If you're using Excel, this can be very hard and take some time to figure out exactly where you were last year, where the peaks and valleys were, etc. So in here, you just press compare range, and instantly it's overlaying last year to this year. Now, if you want to see a custom range, let's say you want to see not just last year, you want to see last week or last month. Well, now you can use this one as one date range and this one as another date range, and you can easily compare one range to the other. Now, let's say you want to compare monthly data. By changing the interval to monthly, all these stats are now combined for the month. And so when you turn on your compare range, you're now able to compare two periods against each other. These are 2 full years being compared against each other, being totaled by the month. You can also look at one specific period. Let's say our gross income. And let's say we want to look at it an accumulating value. It's the end of the year, you're trying to make a goal. Well, you can look at a specific period and you can see how that accumulates and what it accumulates to extremely easily. Now, getting a little bit more advanced, we can, instead of having to manually input all these stats, you can actually connect these to external data points. So in the example of expenses from QuickBooks, right, this is actually an externally updating stat. So if we go over here to our external stats section, we can see that we have a QuickBooks integration. So when you just connect this to your QuickBooks account, what it's going to do is it's going to, every week on your own week ending, update those stats for expenses and for gross income. You can also use Zapier, which is a platform that connects almost any software to any other. So using this, you can get Google reviews, automatic stat. You could get your Trello task done, automatic stat. You can use this to update your gross income from your Stripe charges or PayPal, specific emails, support emails, etc. And then the next level of what it can do is it can bring all these data points together to give you calculating stats. So in here, I have my gross income and I have my product sold. So I can say gross income divided by product sold equals the average price per product sold. So in this week, I can use this to get an idea of how expensive the products being sold were. On average, the products sold were $60 here. On average, products sold were $30 here. So this is a good week because I was selling products that had a higher profit margin. So you can create any number of calculations, this times that, multiply by this, plus this. You can do calculations with stats or other numbers. It's a very, very useful tool for getting a full idea of how your employees are doing. Now, this feature is reusable checklist. So you can create these. It honestly does take a little bit more time, but you have the name of the checklist. You have many different types of data you can have, just pure instructions or ones that require text input, ones that require checkboxes, etc. Different steps assigned to different areas, divisions. Showing this off here, start a new checklist. So we're going to give this one a name. This is the new shipment routing form, so let's just name this after the date. Let's say March 4th, right? So the purpose of this is to ensure every new shipment is accounted for in stock properly. So starting this, you can click this. It keeps track of who clicked where. They can put the information in. Different areas can be assigned to different divisions or positions. And this is a very powerful tool for offline or online processes that your software might not cover, but you need to make sure in, like quality control checklist, new employee checklist, new shipment checklist, etc. So in this dashboard, you can see the policies, you can see the upcoming birthdays and work anniversaries based on employee data. You can see your little to-do list. You can see your purchase request or requests that require your attention and update all of your main stats without having to go anywhere else. So this is Wisemen. I hope you choose to use it, and I hope you enjoy it.